We are Mythbusting Home Education Part 2. So I'm just going to do a few videos, a few different myths surrounding home education, mainly because the worrying thing about these myths, some of them, not all of them, but some of them could heavily impact somebody's decision if they were trying home education or homeschooling or unschooling, because a lot of the time what happens is that because home education and unschooling isn't as popular a choice for children to school, not many people know information about it. So instead of finding out information or asking information, what people I think tend to do is kind of derive their own answers for something. And then when they start passing that information on to other people, people think that they actually know the answer. And then everybody gets a complete mixed up, jumbled up version of what it actually is. So if you didn't see my last post, have a watch, because this is part 2. Part 1 we covered about normal people, do normal people home educate? So that's a good one to start with. Today I am myth-busting the fact that home education, homeschooling and unschooling are all exactly the same thing. It's just that different people use different terminology. Wrong. This was a myth that I believed when I very first started home education. I didn't realise that there was a difference, and I, like many, believed that it was just the way that different people put it across. But there are actually quite significant differences in the three. So today I just want to really quickly run through what those differences are, and also some people who home educate, homeschool, unschool are quite precious over the way that they go about it. So it is to some people quite important that they give out the right message about what they're doing and people understand what it is that they're doing. So if they homeschool, they may get offended if you say that they unschool or they home educate, and likewise for the other options as well. I'm personally, it doesn't offend me. I'm not overly precious about it. Technically, we do home educate, but if somebody said to me, "Oh, you homeschool," I'm not going to correct them because it's not. I say it's not that precious to me, but it is to some. So I thought I'd cover it. So first of all, we're going to start with homeschooling because I think that's the most popular one. Whenever people find out that your children don't tend to go to school, they automatically assume that you homeschool. It's a terminology that we hear probably more than home education and unschooling. And basically, homeschooling, to simplify it, is school at home. So instead of sending the people who homeschool, instead of sending their children to school to follow a curriculum at school, they will do school at home. Those people probably follow a curriculum of some sort, not necessarily the national curriculum. They may do like Montessori, Charlotte Mason method, things like that. But generally they will probably have a bit of a plan that they're working to. They may well use the national curriculum. They may well have all of the workbooks. They may have bought study packs. They may have timetables. And they generally have a much more structured way of working. They may decide to do baseline tests or SAT tests. They're probably going to be working towards maybe doing GCSEs, A-levels, things like that. And it's really, homeschooling is used a lot in countries where you have to, you are obliged still to follow a curriculum of sorts in order to home educate, and it's also used in the UK for the people who choose to do that, and it's quite an American term as well, so I think that's probably why we hear more of it than we do either of the other two options. So anybody who tells you they're homeschooling, chances are they're a little bit more structured, they're a little bit more planned, they probably follow a plan of some sort, be it curriculum or whatever. That's homeschooling. Then we come on to home education. For the record, technically we home educate. So home education is basically a little bit of a mix of the two of the others, really. Home educators may well follow a curriculum loosely to some extent. They may do certain topics like, say, maths and English or science or something like that, that they want to monitor and make sure that their children are progressing in that. And they may do, like us, a lot more play-based learning, that still achieves an outcome. So we have games that are maths based. The kids don't realise that it's maths, but it is. We have games, Scrabble, you know, the orchard games are really good, like the match and spell and things like that. They're still achieving an outcome. They're still, you know, constantly surrounding them with letters and numbers and things like that, but in a really fun way. Some home educators will also do a little bit of unschooling as well, in that they will very much follow their children's lead. They will concentrate more on areas that their children are interested in, or if they have a career in mind, if they're older, obviously they will concentrate on the areas that they need to gain qualifications in order to progress to, you know, whatever career they want to do. So home education is probably not timetabled and not as scheduled as homeschooling. Probably no curriculum, or very loosely following a curriculum. Again, not the national curriculum, it could be any form of curriculum or learning based style. They'll probably do, like I say, a lot more play based learning, a lot more hands on. We do more like experiments. My kids like arts and crafts. They like being outdoors, so try and base things around like nature. We did like a maths treasure hunt the other day, so it was fun, but it was still kind of all about geometry and shapes and 2D and 3D and things like that. So that's, in a nutshell, really is home education. Then we move on to unschooling, which I always think gets a really bad reputation, but actually the results do speak for unschooling for themselves, because a lot of children who have been unschooled have excelled in so many areas that they're gifted in, and being allowed to follow kind of that ambition. So unschooling families, you're probably not going to find a curriculum, a timetable, or a formal workbook anywhere within their vicinity. They're very much natural learners. They very much follow the child's lead. That's not to say that the parents don't surround their children with learning opportunities, but they will never enforce those opportunities onto the children. So they may have, you know, lots of games stacked up. They may have a box of books. They may have some workbooks, some puzzle books, some logic books, but they'll be there for the children to access, but there will be absolutely no formal kind of obligation for them every day to do any of it. If children are really into like music, into nature, maybe into STEM activities like building, Lego, things like that, unschooling families tend more to focus on that and really home in on that and nurture that talent. If the children are into maths, they're into writing, they're into reading. You know, one lady who has a page on here, her son has recently, and he's not very old, he's actually wrote his own book, and she's put it up for sale on her TikTok shop, which is just such an amazing achievement, because when you think about it, I'm 43 and I've never wrote a book, and had it kind of put, you know, published in book format and sold, and he's like 9-10 years old, whatever, and he's actually getting books out there, he's getting his work out there, and he may well go on to be like a huge author, like a huge author of our time. So yeah, unschooling pretty much means, as I say, that they follow the child's lead. They're there to, the parents are there to kind of help and assist with any areas that the children want to kind of go in, but they will never enforce what they think they should be doing on them. So if you're thinking of starting home education, it doesn't really matter if you definitely know whether you want to homeschool, home educate or unschool. You might want to do a bit of a mix of the three. There's no obligation to do any of them. You could do your own style. I was talking the other day in the last video about a lady who went off travelling with her children, and they learnt different cultures, different languages. You know, she probably wouldn't class herself as any of those categories. They just kind of do what they want to do. But it was just a topic that I really wanted to cover today, because you'll see me probably saying about homeschooling, unschooling, home education, and that's why I do try and cover like all three as much as I can, because I don't want to alienate anybody, and I want to be inclusive of everybody that does it, and just to make people aware that it's not like anything with home education, homeschooling, unschooling. It's never a round peg for a round hole. It's never a one size fits all. There are different options, and hopefully that might be helpful to somebody who's watching.